Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this free PESI-sponsored workshop on overcoming habits and addictions through team therapy. Before we get started, I want to go over a few housekeeping items. Due to the large volume of attendees we have, I want to say we have over 7,000 people here. And we're so excited about that. The Q&A will only be open for content-related questions. We ask that you review the open questions before submitting another one. If you see a question that you would like asked, please click the thumbs up button right below that question. Also, look to the chat for announcements made by the PESI staff throughout the workshop. Let me now introduce you to Dr. David Burns. Dr. David Burns is a pioneer in the development of cognitive behavioral therapy. Taking a class with Dr. Burns is like studying with like Sigmund Freud or Karl Marx or Karen Horney, but much more fun because Dr. Burns was at the forefront of the creation and the development of cognitive behavioral therapy and the creator of the new team therapy. Dr. Burns is the author of 10 books, including the bestsellers Feeling Good and his latest book, Feeling Great, which have sold over 5 million copies and contain powerful new techniques that make rapid recovery possible for many people struggling with depression and anxiety. Dr. Burns is also an emeritus adjunct professor of clinical psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine. I'm Dr. Rhonda, the host of the Feeling Good podcast, and I'm a team therapist in Walnut Creek, California. So welcome.
Howdy, are we ready for me to jump in now? Have we launched this ship? If so, thank you all for coming. And I want to thank Linda Jackson and PESI for making this free event possible. And we greatly appreciate all of you for signing up and hope you have fun today and learn some really, really good stuff. I'm going to share my screen right now. And let's see what we can do. Here we go. See, slideshow from the beginning. Maybe you can help me, Drew, here because it's resume slide. Here we go. Great. So we're going to be talking today about overcoming habits and addictions. And that will include really any kind of habit or addiction that's plaguing you. You might have an eating problem, binge eating. An awful lot of, probably 60% of Americans are afflicted with that, or drug and alcohol excessive use, gambling, procrastination, sexual addictions, relationship addictions, internet surfing, nail biting, excessive cell phone use, just about anything. Now, a lot of you are familiar with my work on depression and anxiety and are familiar with the 10 cognitive distortions that trigger all depression and all anxiety disorders. And I first published this list of distortions in my book, Feeling Good, which I published in 1980. And most of you are familiar with like all or nothing thinking that you see in depression. If I'm not a complete success, I'm a total failure. Or overgeneralization, where you take a negative event, like a young woman was rejected after a two-year relationship with her boyfriend, and then she told me, Dr. Burns, does this mean that I'm unlovable? Does this mean I'm going to be alone forever? And that's a classic overgeneralization where you take a negative event, you see it as a never-ending pattern of defeat, or you generalize from a specific failure or rejection to yourself, thinking that somehow yourself is no good. And there's 10 of these distortions, and they've become incredibly popularized. And I think if you hunt on the internet, type in Burns's cognitive distortions, you'll probably get hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of hits of that. These things have been reproduced all around the world. Well, people are less familiar with my list of positive distortions. And positive distortions are the exact mirror images or the opposites of negative distortions. And positive distortions trigger many things, including habits and addictions. And the list of positive distortions looks very similar. The fact the names are all identical except for 2 or 3. You know, the depressed patient discounts the negative, but the positive equivalent of that discounts the positive, says, oh, the good things about me don't count. The negative person focuses on all the negatives in your life. That's called mental filtering and discounting the positive. But in habits and addictions, you're discounting the negative, saying it doesn't count. Like maybe if you're tempted to overeat, you tell yourself, oh, I'll just have one little bite of that glazed donut. One little bite can't hurt. And we all say things like that, but that's discounting negative evidence, because you've probably told yourself thousands of times, I'll just have one little bite, and you probably never did. You probably have one bite of that glazed donut, and if it's your favorite kind of thing, you're going to have more and more bites. And instead of self-blame and self-directed should statements that you see in depression, it's all my fault, and I shouldn't have screwed up. I shouldn't have made that mistake. I shouldn't be so upset. I shouldn't be shy. I shouldn't be anxious. You have other blame. It's all your fault. It's all their fault. And other directed should statements. He shouldn't say that. She shouldn't say that. Or other blame thought is it's unfair that other people can eat all they want without getting fat. I shouldn't use that word, but that's what we tell ourselves. Or I'm entitled to some pleasure. I've had a hard day. I'll just have a drink or 2 or 3 type of thing. And these positive distortions are very interesting. And I'll be quick on this. This is just a little intellectual stuff to get us started. So you see there's something theoretically interesting or of academic value, but most of what we're going to do is practical. How do I change my life? But the positive distortions are really interesting to me because they also trigger mania, narcissism, narcissistic personality disorder, if you will. I'm the greatest, and if anyone criticizes me, they're screwed. They need to be punished. There's something wrong with them. They trigger all relationship conflicts, all marital conflict. And also, positive distortions trigger all racial, religious, political, and ethnic hatred. They lead to anger, hostility, violence, and war. And although that's not our focus for today, maybe we'll touch on this at some future time. This seems to be sweeping the world right now. The positive distortion is our group, our political party, our religion, our race, our ethnicity is superior to yours. And then that's often combined with negative distortions, and you're inferior, you're a rat, you're a loser. You've got the wrong political views, you've got the wrong religion, and so forth. And I think that the world is in the most dangerous time right now that we've seen perhaps for the last 50 or 75 years, and I'm profoundly worried. And the thing about positive distortions versus negative distortions is they're extraordinarily seductive. See, if you have negative distortions and you have the thought, I'm a loser, like so many depressed people, or I'm worthless, or I'm inferior to other people, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough. And you discover that those thoughts are distorted, which they are, and that they're not true, that it's not true that you're hopeless. It's not true that you're a worthless person. It's not true that you're an inferior human being. Discovering that you're wrong is the greatest discovery a human being can make. You're flooded with joy. But it's the opposite with positive distortions, because those positive distortions themselves make you feel euphoric, morally superior, entitled, and powerful. And you don't want to give them up. It feels good. We don't like to admit it, but it feels good to look down on people. I love looking down on people, to be honest with you. And it makes me feel morally superior. And that's intoxicating, I think, to all human beings. And so if you want to treat positive distortions, let's say you're a therapist, they're much more difficult to treat. And if we're talking habits and addictions, cognitive and behavioral techniques may not be sufficient and probably will not be sufficient. And I'm just going to unplug my phone here. I'm getting a call. I hope it's not about, well, I'll pick it up because it might be I'm doing something wrong in the presentation. Let's see. Hello? Hello? Oh, that was Alexa from the credit card department. I'll have her call all of you. I think she'd be delighted. Boy, I get a lot of robocalls. I'll unplug my phone. Sorry about that. But positive distortions are really hard to treat. And if you go about trying to help people who have habits and addictions, like, oh, here's a new diet, or sign up for this helpful program, or, you know, there's dozens, hundreds of people offering all kinds of help for people with all kinds of addictions. And if you review the outcome literature, to my eye, it's not at all encouraging. Some things give a little short-term improvement, and then it quickly falls off. People lose a little weight, gain it back, that type of thing. And one of the biggest difficulties with almost all current treatment approaches is that they're not including powerful motivational techniques. And pretty much all of the variability in habits and addictions results from motivational factors, not from cognitive factors or behavioral factors. You can try to give people new habits, train them in new habits, new eating habits, for example. Or new exercising habits. And there's some value in that for sure. All approaches have some value, but it's very limited. And the effectiveness in the short term is not impressive, and in the long term is generally not different from placebos. So I've really focused on what I think is the cause of habits and addictions, and that's motivational factors. I did a study in the Stanford inpatient unit to validate my easy diagnostic system, and I did extensive testing of roughly 170 newly admitted patients, and I had information on 60 diagnostic categories, including all habits and addictions, eating disorders, alcohol problems, gambling, every conceivable addiction, and then every conceivable emotional problem, because people say, oh, people, they overeat because they have a hole in their hearts. They're trying to fill their loneliness. They're depressed, and they go to food as a comfort for depression or anxiety. And I was surprised. So I was able to test the impact of every conceivable kind of negative emotion on every conceivable kind of habit and addiction. And I was surprised to discover that all of the claims that you see in the media were profoundly slammed by the data and shown to have no truth whatsoever. It isn't true that people overeat or drink too much because of depression. Because when people are happy, they're just as likely to overeat and overdrink as when they're depressed or anxious or somewhere in between. In fact, the only meaningful correlations I found were two. One was that when people are depressed, they're actually less likely to overeat, and they will tend to weigh more than depending on how depressed they are. And the other, I had developed a motivational test, the urges to get stoned type of thing. And that test was massively correlated with virtually all habits and addictions. And that really cemented my thinking that when we're looking at why do people overeat? Why do people drink? Well, it's because it makes us feel damn good. We overeat, we drink, we procrastinate because we want to. Why do we procrastinate? Well, because there's a great Warriors game on TV tonight, and I'd rather look at that than do my taxes. It's a very simple explanation. And so while all the fancy cognitive techniques and behavioral techniques have value and are worth learning about, what we're going to focus in this workshop is radical new innovative techniques that will help you with the motivations that are the real root cause of all habits and addictions. And the last thing I want to say is that those 10 negative distortions, like negative all or nothing thinking and negative self-blame and negative should statements that lead to depression and anxiety and negative feelings, often coexist with positive distortions, but they require radically different treatment strategies. Now, as you know, I have developed a new approach called TEAM-CBT, which is kind of like cognitive therapy on steroids. When I wrote my first book, Feeling Good, it really introduced cognitive therapy to the world. And I've always loved cognitive therapy and thought it was a major contribution in the history of psychiatry and psychology, but it had limits. And over the years, I've done a lot of research to find out how does psychotherapy really work and how could we make cognitive therapy massively more effective, and that evolved into TEAM-CBT. And we're just going to talk about the assessment of resistance today, but TEAM-CBT involves testing. T is testing, E is empathy, A is assessment of resistance, and M is methods. But I'm going to show you how to bring resistance to conscious awareness when it comes to habits and addictions. And then you can make a decision. Once you see the reasons for your habit or addiction, you can decide, yes, I think I want to stick with my habit or addiction, or no, I think I'm ready to give it up. And if you come to know I'm ready to give it up, then any method you choose will generally be effective. So our assessment today is on the new innovative tools to boost, hopefully, the resistance that is the main barrier to eliminating all habits and addictions. And I might say that in our fourth talk of December, I did 4 talks on the 4 deaths of the ego. I demonstrated some of the techniques in a very short little presentation that Pesci was kind enough to sponsor. And I worked with Rhonda live, and Rhonda says that was very, very helpful to her. She had gained, and you can tell us about it in a little bit, a little weight on her tour of Europe, introducing TEAM-CBT in a lot of different countries, including England. But like all of us on vacation, we tend to overeat, and she wanted to get rid of a little extra weight. And so we demonstrated those techniques, and we're going to really bring them to life for you here today. Now, the motivational techniques we're going to teach you are called the triple paradox, the externalization of resistance, and the devil's advocate technique. And the triple paradox, if you print at the end of the slides section of your handout, you'll find the kind of the Microsoft Word type handout. And on page 2 of that, you'll find the triple paradox. And if you've printed that, or if you can print that now, you can fill it out during the presentation. And then on pages 3 to 4, you'll find the the habit and addiction log. And we're going to show you how to use that, as well as how to do the devil's advocate technique. And so if you want to print the habit and addiction log on pages 3 to 4, that would also be useful for you. And there's 3 or 4 ways really for you to learn what Rhonda and I are going to be teaching you today. One, of course, you can just sit back and listen and get a feel for these new approaches, and you can see if you like them. Just, think about it and see what you think. Secondly, if you print those pages and actually work with them on a personal issue, your learning will occur at yet a deeper level. And third, I've kind of devoted my life the last 10 years or more to making free resources available for people. I never charge anyone for therapy. Almost all of my teaching is for free. And on my website, feelinggood.com, is loaded with free resources for you, including the new Feeling Good app, which I'll tell you about toward the end. But on the homepage of feelinggood.com, at the bottom, there's an offer for a free unpublished chapter on habits and addictions. And if you click on it, you can download not one, but 2 free chapters, and they're very good. And the first of them will show you in detail how to use all the techniques I'm teaching you today. So if you download that and print those tools and use them yourself and follow the instructions there, it'll really show you how to use these tools. Now, I want to warn you, whether you're a therapist or a patient, that the techniques you're going to learn are not at all what you expect. They're kind of the opposite of your common sense. They're very anti-intuitive. And so you'll have to concentrate. You may be taken aback several times that we're going in just the opposite direction you thought we were going to go in. And another warning is that in team therapy, therapists do not try to help patients. We don't try to persuade them, and we don't offer advice. Instead, I go in the opposite direction. I try to bring the patient's subconscious resistance to change to conscious awareness, and let them see, here's why you've been depressed all of your life. And it's not because of what's wrong with you. It's for good reasons. It's because of what's right with you. And the same for anxiety. And now I'm going to show you how we do that for habits and addictions. And paradoxically, when you see why you're stuck in the way you're stuck, it leads to a reduction of shame, a greater self-acceptance, and paradoxically opens the door for rapid change. And that's what I hope will happen for many of you. I think it's happened for Rhonda. It's happened to me. I believe physician heal thyself, practice what you preach. And I've used these tools myself just recently with really great results. So, but I'm going to let you, the patient or the person, argue for change. And Rhonda and I are going to sit with open hands, and we're not going to try to persuade you of anything. But by the way, I just want to say, my wife and I are members of Kaiser here in California, the Kaiser health system, and we're big fans of Kaiser and hope the United States changes to a national health insurance program on the model of Kaiser, where we're all working together as a family to get essentially free healthcare. We pay for it, but it is a collective system. But I must say that roughly 10 years ago, they said, "Oh, it looks like you might, Dr. Burns, you might be getting diabetes, and your blood sugar's a little high." And so they started bugging me constantly about, we want you to take this pill, and we want you to do that, and we want you to do this. And I don't want to knock them for this, but I started getting calls from them and emails like twice a week, trying to help me. And it had the opposite effect of making me absolutely not wanting to have anything to do with my doctor. And to tell you the truth, I refused to go to the doctor for the next 10 years. And again, I'm sure a lot of the things they were offering were like wonderfully sound and valid, but throwing help at people is generally unwelcome and not the way to work with people who are wanting change or in need of change. So I can tell you what I'm talking about from personal experience. Now, before we go on, let me just ask you, Rhonda, I've been kind of hogging the show here, and I want to collaborate with you. Before we introduce our our guest, Denise, who kindly agreed to join us with her own real issue. Do you want to expand on or comment on anything we've done so far? Because we're about to go from the theoretical into the practical.
No, just to say that, just to reiterate that you and I did do personal work together, and I had gained about 7 pounds on my vacation because it was we went to very yummy places. And after going through the techniques that we're going to do with Denise and that we're going to invite you to do at home, I actually did lose 4 pounds. I'm still on the path. So I can also say from personal experience that they work.
Cool. Anything else about negative or positive distortions? Or
well, there are a couple of questions about that. And I wonder if you want to answer a question now.
We could do a quick one. Yeah.
So a couple of people have asked if you see patients that have both positive and negative distortions at the same time. And yeah. So do people have positive and negative distortions at the same time?
Yeah. And I'll give an example of that in just a minute when we come on to the habit and addiction log. But often people will have positive distortions that, and this is the example I'll show, that lead you to binge and overeat. And then you may have a negative distortion that causes guilt and shame. A young physician I worked with was studying for her licensure exam, a really neat lady, really smart lady, but she was also had gone on this severe diet of like a 400 calorie diet, just to eat a few pieces of sliced turkey or something. And it's very effective if you can follow it. And she'd been on this diet for a number of days. And then one evening she looked in the refrigerator and the freezer and saw her, a gallon of her favorite ice cream. And she told herself, I'll just have one little bite. That can't hurt. She was all anxious about her licensure exam and her studying, and she had one little bite. And that's really good. I think I'll just have one more little bite. And before she knew it, she'd eaten a half a gallon of ice cream. And then she said, I'm a fat pig. I've blown my diet completely. Well, she actually said that after the first teaspoonful. She said, I've blown my diet completely. That's all or nothing thinking. I'm a fat pig. That's kind of labeling. And those thoughts upset her so much. Then she went ahead and gobbled down the half a gallon of ice cream. But yes, and you see this in anger and interpersonal conflict as well. Negative and positive distortions. Negative distortions about the other person and positive distortions about yourself. I'm innocent and this is all your fault and you're no good and I'm right and you're wrong. That type of thing. And we might do that in a future presentation on relationship conflict, bring that to life. So why don't we introduce the wonderful lady who I have just barely met, Denise, and let's tell us a little bit about your own habit and addiction, and then we'll see if we can illustrate the triple paradox.
Hi, everyone. I like Rhonda, overeat from time to time and gain excess weight that isn't healthy for me or my body. So that's what I'm working on today.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit more. Are you over the weight you'd like to be, and what are the kind of things you tend to overeat, and how does that affect your psyche?
Yes, I am probably about 15 pounds over the weight I'd like to be. And I love to eat at night while I'm watching television. Usually a sweet treat, maybe a huge bowl of salty popcorn to go with it. That's pretty much the habit. And then, for dinner, if I like what I've made, I may have a second helping. And it's usually pretty healthy. So I just go for it. And, that was fine when I was in my 30s and 40s. But as the 50s and early 60s crept in, everything seemed to change.
Right. And what's been the main change? The effect of it on your body, or your determination to, use self-discipline, or what?
Probably a little bit of both, because I didn't have to self-discipline before, and now I do, and I don't think that's fair. And also, I think my metabolism has changed. I'm just not as it just doesn't it builds up like in places that it never did before.
Sure, sure. And do you have any negative feelings about being 15 pounds overweight, like shame or anxiety or discouragement or sadness or frustration or anger or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. Probably all of those. Mostly discouraged and disappointed in myself. You know, don't want to wear a bathing suit anymore in front of people. And my clothes don't fit. So I don't want to have to buy all new clothes.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I can identify with all of that. I'm so grateful for you coming on to share this and let us demonstrate some of the methods that might be of helpful to you, might be of interest. What is it like sharing this in front of quite a few thousand people?
I was a little overwhelmed when I saw the number of participants, but it's just little boxes on my laptop, so it's not so bad.
Cool, that's great. Let me turn it over to you, Rhonda, and then once we've done a decent job on empathy, we can get on to the triple paradox and habit addiction log and so forth.
Denise, I love that you're bringing these emotions and all these thoughts to the table. I think everyone can relate to them, and I really appreciate, as David does, you volunteering out of our audience. So, it sounds like when you were younger, you didn't have to struggle at all with weight. And now that your age has crept up, you've kind of gained 15 pounds and it's just really not fair, but that's happening. And, you have this really habit that sounds like it's pretty comforting of loving to eat while watching TV. And sometimes you have sweets and sometimes you have something salty. And that sounds so kind of soothing and lovely and fun. And I can completely relate to that. And, but you have some negative thoughts about being 15 pounds overweight, and you're unhappy that the clothes don't fit. You don't want to buy more clothes, and you feel uncomfortable wearing a bathing suit in front of other people, and you're feeling discouraged and disappointed. And I'm wondering if you're feeling a little sad and unhappy too, and maybe a little irritated or angry at yourself. Yeah. I'm just feeling completely in relation. I can relate to everything that you're going through. And, my heart goes out to you, and I feel like I'm feeling also like super excited that you're here and that we could do this work with you. I'm wondering if you feel like, we understand you and that we're really getting where you're coming from.
Yeah, definitely. Just the words that David had leading up to this portion, I was, really surprised at how much I could relate to it. And because I wasn't sure coming into this whether I would get anything valuable or not, especially since I know nothing about therapy and don't pretend to understand all the technical words that are used. But I get what David is saying, and I see that there could be an opening here for me.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, that's neat. If you had to give us an A, and by the way, the reason, why therapists use technical words?
No, why?
Because we don't know anything, so we try to make up big words to make it seem like we know something. But I apologize if I was using big words. I'm all for communicating and with simple words. Absolutely. But if you had to give us a grade on empathy, an A, a B, a C, a D, what grade would you give us so far?
Oh my gosh, an A. I mean, you get what I'm saying. So, and I really do feel that.
Great. Thank you for that. And by the way, for those of you who are therapists, what I just did might have seemed kind of dorky, but it's really helpful. And if you're not getting an A, you want to continue empathizing until you get to an A, because if you try to help a person or teach them something before you've provided warmth and understanding of where they're coming from, it's much less likely to be effective. And let me ask you one other quick question here. Let's say that a kind of miracle here happens today, Denise, and we can't promise any miracle, but if a miracle did happen, what miracle might you be hoping for by the end of this demonstration?
That I would be motivated to take new actions in the area of my diet and consumption habits.
Okay, great. Now let's see how we're going to get there, because we're going to go in the exact opposite direction, Denise, and I'm going to use a technique that I created not that long ago, maybe 5-6 years ago. And instead of trying to motivate you to change, I'd like to look at all of the benefits of not changing. And I think you have a printed copy of this, and all of you who are watching, if you've printed out your copy of the triple paradox, which I think you can see on the screen, and I'm actually going to go to one where I can type while we're working together. So let me just go into that version right now. Here we are. Here's the triple paradox. And if you haven't printed this and you have a piece of paper and a pen, you can just mimic this, draw 3 vertical columns. And then the left-hand column is the advantages of your habit or addiction. The middle column is the disadvantage of change, which might mean diet and exercise. And then core values, what does your habit or addiction show about you that's actually positive and awesome? So let's start with the left-hand column, Denise. I was going to write it down, but I'm going to type it. What are some benefits of your overeating?
It makes me feel good.
Okay, you write that down. Everyone write that in the left-hand column. Makes me feel good. Is that important, Denise, to feel good?
Yeah.
Absolutely. The Dalai Lama, I believe, said that happiness is the purpose of life. And so if overeating creates some happiness, then we could say that overeating is a very spiritual activity.
Great.
So what are some other really awesome things about eating whatever you want, whenever you want, and avoiding exercise?
There's a sense of freedom, not having to worry about what I eat. And I love that freedom to just take in whatever I want. Nobody's controlling it.
Yeah.
Including me. I just get this free feeling of living unencumbered.
Yeah, I love that. That's huge. Sense of freedom, not having to worry about what I eat. Yeah, absolutely. What are some other great things about overeating?
I like to share food with others. That's that kind of goes in the feel good category, but it's a little bit more nuanced because it's so much fun to share food with others. The activity of it is great. And the longer you do it, the more fun it is. So the more food you eat.
Yeah, that's great. And by the way, when we get to core values,
Mhm.
I'm going to fill in opposite over in the core values column. The overeating is an expression of my love for others, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great. What are some other advantages or benefits of overeating?
I'm well fed.
Sure, absolutely. That's important.
Yeah.
What else?
Um,
I'm sitting there watching TV and I've got some salty popcorn and some sweets and stuff.
yeah. It's just it falls in the it feels good category. It keeps me busy. It's something to do with my hands while I'm watching TV. Maybe there's something there as well.
Okay, to do with my hands and how about life becomes a party?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Can you think of any others?
Uh, Not really. That's pretty much exhaust my advantages.
Okay, and let me just switch I'm going to save this for a moment and switch back to my screen. And here's a list that someone else came on binging. Lots of yummy food. It's a reward for hard work. Do you think of it as a reward ever?
Oh yeah,
Well,
definitely. If I've had a bad day, it's very soothing.
okay. Reward and soothing when I've had a bad day. That's a good one.
Hmm.
Let me go back to and you can still see my screen, right?
I can see the one you're typing on.
Yeah, great, perfect.
Yeah.
Now I'll go over to the other one here. Relieve stress, boredom, anxiety, depression.
Yep. Yep. Those are all good.
Oh, okay, let me add that. Relieves, what is it? Anxiety, stress, boredom?
Uh, Probably anxiety. Yeah, all of them. Anxiety, stress, and boredom can all be present.
Great,
Mhm.
terrific. Let's see what else we got. Life is short and mean, don't have to fight constant urges and yearnings.
Let's see. Don't have to fight. I'm not sure about that one.
Well, let's say you were going to diet, you have to be saying no to the urge to have some great popcorn and stuff.
If I was dying, I would just go for it.
No, dieting.
Oh, I thought you said dying.
No, no, you can go for it when you're dying. You can eat as much as you want. It's one of the good things about dying.
Okay. Don't have to fight constant urges and yearnings. Oh, got it. Because you're just eating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Got it. That's kind of in the freedom category, right?
Yeah. Right.
Denise, can I offer you one? Because it kind of fits in with what you were saying, that you're getting older, so why should you care about your weight anymore? You shouldn't have to.
Yeah, right. I'll look like all the other Americans.
Yeah, that's right.
Good one, Rhonda.
No good reason to worry about figure or fitness. Anything else that comes to mind in this column? You've got a great list here, so we probably got what we need.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay, now let's go to the second column. And again, people may find this confusing, but we're going to put the disadvantages of change. And change would mean dieting, would mean more exercise. What would it mean, Denise?
Definitely more cardio.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and with the pandemic, the cardio I like to do is unavailable. So
yeah,
that has really caused my weight to go up. So a disadvantage of change is I have to figure out some other cardio that I know I'm not going to like.
Mm-hmm. some cardio I know I won't like. And I can identify with that. I had a cardiac incident last June, and I'm trying to get back in shape. And so I'm trying to do 2 miles a day that I'm actually very proud of. I used to, with my group, my Tuesday group, I offered free hiking adventures every Sunday, and I would treat people, again, for free on the hikes. I could generally treat 3 people on every hike, and we'd go 10 miles up really steep hills and stuff like that. It was great fun. And now, just on a flat surface, I feel really grateful to do 2 miles. But I've never enjoyed exercise. I've never had a cardiac high. And how about exercise can sometimes really suck?
Yeah.
Okay. What are some other disadvantages of dieting and increasing your exercise?
Well, the converse of the advantage, I'm not free. I have to control myself.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. What are some other disadvantages?
I don't get to eat while I watch TV and that's not very satisfying to me.
Yeah, right. I don't get to eat while watching TV,
Mm-hmm.
and this is less satisfying. That's for sure. What other?
Eating becomes something boring. It's like something you just do to sustain your body rather than having it be such a joyful experience.
Yeah. How about the loss of my most joyful and pleasurable experiences?
Right. It would be like being on a spaceship, years from now, where you just eat some kind of bar and that gives
Yeah,
you
yeah. Like being deprived
Yeah.
on a spaceship. I like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Sure. What are some other downsides of diet? And all of you, I hope you're writing this as well, because you don't really get it until you do it, especially when you do it with your own stuff. And you'll see where we go from this list. But you're giving us a great list so far. What are some more disadvantages of diet and exercise?
Well, one thing that just came up is when I go to a restaurant, I hate having to look at a menu and sort out what should I eat and what shouldn't I. And it's not ever the same. What I want to eat is never the same as what I should eat. And
Yeah,
so I have to limit myself when I'm out
yeah,
with others. And then they order something fantastic, and I
yeah.
just sit there and drool.
Oh, yeah, yeah. What are some of the things that you love the most in a restaurant?
Oh, stuff with cheese. Like I love mac and cheese with lobster.
Oh, yeah,
Sounds yummy.
yeah. I think we should just forget about this dieting stuff today.
No, let's go in the kitchen, start cooking.
Yeah, and if you're ever really hungry, I once was hiking down to and out of the Grand Canyon with a colleague, and I'd never done that before. And he led me on a 17-mile route, all the way down to the bottom and then all the way back up. And I was recovering from mono at the time, so I was pretty weak. And it was just the roughest day of my life trying to get out of the Grand Canyon. It's a mile up. I mean, the trail is like 7 miles, but the height is over 5,000 feet. And we didn't have enough money to buy sandwiches in the restaurant down next to the Colorado River. And so we didn't have any food to eat. We had water. It was hot. We were sweating like crazy. And we had to crawl part of the way to get out. And we finally, some people were coming down on the trail. We were about a third of the way back up to the top, and we said to them, we don't have any food and we're not sure we can be able to make it out. And they gave each of us, you know, those little Sun-Maid raisin boxes? They gave us each one of those to eat. And I've never tasted anything so good in my life. I mean, when you really appreciate how fantastic food is, it's almost like enlightenment. And to tell you the truth, I was so hungry. We saw a big lizard and I said, let's kill that lizard. We can just eat it raw. I wanted to do that. And he wouldn't do it. They say, oh, the drive for life is the most strongest drive humans have. And I said, listen, I just want to lie down here and go to sleep. And if you want, you can go up the top and maybe send someone down for me. But I didn't care. I was just so weak and hungry. Hunger is a fantastic thing. Any other disadvantages of diet and exercising?
And with respect to the kind of exercise I have to do here at home, it kind of I have more thoughts while I'm exercising. When it's boring, like if I'm doing the kind of exercise that I love to do that I can't do now because gyms are not a good place to be or whatever. What I do here is so boring that my mind is very active and I think about things that I don't really want to put my energy on.
Yeah. And what exercise do you do at home? Like a bicycle type of thing?
Yeah, like a bicycle.
Yeah, stationary bicycle. And then what does your mind get active on that you don't want?
Whatever negative thing might be happening in my life, with my kids or if there's a work issue or
yeah,
anything I might just decide it's time to dwell on.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna just change my formatting here so we can. Yeah, that's a great list of negatives. Let me. I think I'll just change the typeface here. See if we can get all this on one page. Yeah, that's working. Anything else in disadvantage of diet and exercise?
I can't think of anything else.
That's a great list, and we'll review it in just a minute. Now let's go to the trickiest but equally important column, core values. What is your habit and addiction? Your habit in this case, the overeating and keeping your exercise limited as compared with what you might need to do to really lose some weight. What does it show about you and your core values that's positive and awesome? And we've got one already. Overeating is an expression of my love for others because it's a social thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like last night, I was teaching my Tuesday group at Stanford, and my son kindly brought me a dish that he was cooking upstairs, so I'd have something to eat, and it was a sweet potato curry, and a really exotic, great thing that he'd made, and it was just really nice to thank him for it and to realize it was an expression of love, and it was really meaningful, and I ate it joyfully. It did have carbs in there in those sweet potatoes, and perhaps wasn't the smartest thing, but it would have seemed pretty cold to say, oh, I don't want to eat this. Do you know what I mean? Food is an expression of love, and we see that with our animals too, that when we give them food, like our cat that we adopted from the pound, she feels loved, and she talks to us and lets us know that how much she appreciates when we give her some food or some cat candy. What are some other things that your overeating shows about you and your core values as a human being that's positive and awesome?
Going back to the fun component, I
Mhm.
definitely like to have fun.
Is that a
And
good thing?
yeah,
Is that important?
it is very important,
Is that powerful?
very powerful.
Absolutely. What are some other really wonderful things?
I really am adventuresome.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And my eating habits kind of go in that direction.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I'm adventuresome. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Has that been a plus in your life to be adventuresome?
Oh yeah.
Hmm. Cool. What else does it show about you?
Um, I like, well, let's see, we already got the sharing with others. I
Hmm.
don't like to necessarily share the food on my plate with others, but
Yeah, sure.
but I like to
Uh,
cook for others. So
yes.
I
Okay.
like to cook and give in that way.
For others and give to others. That's
Mm.
beautiful. I love that one.
Unless
Den-
it's on my plate, I won't give you that.
Denise, does it show that you're like an individualist or a nonconformist? Like you eat what you want, when you
Yeah,
want.
good one, Rhonda. That's great. Yeah,
Is that true for you?
yeah, it is. It is. Um, let's see.
Nonconformist and not addicted to the correct way that attractive men and women are supposed to look and aspire to, right?
Right, right.
That's a good one for sure. What are some other great things about eating whatever you want, whenever you want, and keeping the exercise minimal?
Um, let's see. I think we're covering it. I
How about
just,
it shows I value life and living?
good. Yeah,
Is that right?
that's definitely good. Yeah, that fits.
And does it show that you're really good at self-care? Like you can pamper yourself with food and take care of yourself?
Yeah, boy, you guys are great.
Thanks. Pamper myself with food and self care.
Hmm.
So it's an expression of self love as well as love for others.
Hmm. Yeah, I noticed that when, you know, life isn't maybe going so good on a given day, something may have happened
Yeah.
that's upset me. One of the first things I think about is, wow, maybe I'll just go out to eat. That would be a great way to elevate my mood and just shake it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that value is, core value that would be. Just a drive for a drive for a positive existence,
Yeah.
not dwelling on negativity for too long.
Oh, yeah. I see what you mean.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You don't get mired in negativity.
right. I do something to shake it
Negativity.
off.
But yeah, take action.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. Right. You're an action person. And you don't just succumb to fate and self-pity. Yeah. Well, this is a great list. And you know, well,
Sorry
see,
about that.
whose dog is that?
That would be my dog.
Oh, well, your dog is approving. Yes, tell your dog that I agree, and that you've hit it out of the park here. So let's review this. And again, you see, you might be thinking, if you're a therapist or a general public, general citizen type, that we should be trying to talk Denise, who's an intelligent woman, out of overeating and talk her into doing more exercising. But we're doing the opposite. And some of the benefits of your overeating, it makes you feel good. It gives you a sense of freedom. You don't have to worry about what you eat. You love to share food with others. And that's a really fun thing. Of course, you're well fed. That's important. It keeps you busy when you're watching TV. It gives you something to do with your hands. It adds to the experience, and life becomes a kind of a party, a celebration, really, of existence, and a celebration of the universe that has created us and created all these fantastic things for us. That you, well, how about like this? It shows that I appreciate all these gifts from the universe, right?
Right.
It was hard for the universe to create us, and all those supernovas and stuff, creating all these elements that went into the evolution of humans and food and everything. And it's a reward and soothing when you've had a bad day, and it relieves anxiety, stress, and boredom, and you don't have to fight your yearnings and always be craving something and disciplining yourself and so forth. And there's no good reason to worry about your figure or fitness now that you're older. I feel the same thing. I'm not like out trying to date or to impress anybody. I mean, I was never very attractive in the first place, but now that I'm old, I'm kind of justified in looking any way I want. And then what are some of the downsides of diet and exercise? That you have to figure out some cardio exercises that you won't like. And exercise, some people say they get a runner's high or they get high from exercise, but a lot of us don't. And for a lot of us, exercise really sucks. I ran 12 miles before, in the past, trying to get a runner's high. Ran up to the top of Skyline Boulevard here. It's a steep climb. And I thought, well, if I just run, up a steep enough hill, eventually I'll get a runner's high. And I finally got to the top, and all I got was damn tired and saying, what the hell did I do that for? And I hitchhiked home. And finally this person stopped and gave me a ride. But I've never had a runner's high. Now some people do, and they're lucky, but a lot of us don't. And then you get to eat while watching TV, and this is less satisfying if you have to turn off, that source of freedom, and then you're going to have to control yourself, and eating becomes boring and something you just do to sustain your body, and you lose the joyful and pleasurable experiences, like and it's like being deprived on a spaceship. And when you go to a restaurant, you're going to have to sort out what you should want versus what you do want. You have to limit yourself and rule while other people eat cheese with mac and cheese with lobster. And you just have to watch and crave and eat like pieces of paper or something, or stale crackers. Or a stale carrot. And then while exercising, it's boring because gyms aren't safe. I can't go on that would be fun. So my mind gets gets very active when I exercise on my bicycle, stationary bicycle, and then I think of a lot of negative issues in my life. And then finally, what is your current eating pattern show about you that's actually positive and awesome? and beautiful about you and your core values, and shows you like to have fun. That's cool, that you're adventuresome. Overeating is an expression of your love for others. You like to cook for others and give food to others. And you become a nonconformist. You're not addicted to having to do look the correct way or fall into some stereotype of what attractive men and women are supposed to look like and aspire to. And it shows that you value life and you value living and being alive, and that you can pamper yourself with food and self-care. So eating becomes an expression of self-love as well as love for others, and just the joy of existence. And when you're upset, you can elevate your mood by going out to eat and celebrate a little bit. And it shows that you have a drive for positive experiences, and you don't dwell on negativity or feeling sorry for yourself, but you take action to help yourself and to change your mood. And it shows that you appreciate all these gifts we have from the universe, just the gift of being alive and being fortunate to be in a country where we have so many wonderful things to eat and the resources to obtain them, with so many people in the world going hungry and not having these resources. And so now we have a question to ask you, and I will let Rhonda pop the question.
Denise, you have, with all of these wonderful reasons and advantages to overeat and eat whatever you want, whenever you want it, and all of the painful disadvantages of changing, and all the beautiful things that overeating says about your core values and who you are as a person, why on earth would you want to diet and change your habits? Why would you want to stop overeating?
I was just asking myself that as David went over everything. What's wrong here? Maybe there's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
Yeah, just it's kind of interesting just to be aware of all of it like that. And I don't know where that might lead, but I've never laid it out like that before. And it just really doesn't look like there's anything wrong with.
There isn't anything wrong. There isn't anything wrong with it. Maybe that's not something you really want to do. That's not a step you want to take. And our position would be to sit with open hands. And we're not promoting anything here. We're not trying to sell you on anything. And if that's something you don't want to change, then, I say, God bless you. And that's really cool with us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I want to change it, and I have to maybe what I'll do is look at ways that that I can bring those positive attributes of eating and the disadvantages. I can bring some balance to it, perhaps.
Well, that's true, but we want to show you something called the externalization of resistance. And again, you're trying to persuade yourself. And I think we're probably going to go in the opposite direction, but we're going to become the part of Denise that really doesn't want to change.
Okay, good. I'll go with that. I like that.
And we want to see if you can talk us out of it. And Rhonda and I will be kind of like tag team, and we'll take turns.
Okay.
And
good.
We're going to kind of hold your feet to the fire here. Denise, one thing I want to remind you about is that eating sweets and eating salty popcorn and eating what you want to eat and having lobster and mac, with cheese, that feels really good. I don't see why you'd want to give up all of that really great stuff.
Yeah, I don't really want to.
Okay, so should we say then that you've kind of made a decision not to go into dieting and exercising? And we can maybe say this part of our demo has been completed.
Well, you could say that, and there's some little thing left for me about,
Hmm.
well, okay, we can say that just to move it along, but I'm not sure that I'm going to give up the ship yet.
Well, you'd have to persuade me then, why would I want to give up all this wonderful, tasty food? It makes no sense. Why should I want to do that?
Well, I don't want to, and I'm a problem solver, so I think there must be a way to not have to give it all up and still lose weight.
Sure.
Hmm.
Sure that you can go for it, but certainly diet and exercise are don't look to me like a good option for you or something that you'd really want to do.
Right. More exercise. I could do that.
Hmm. Well,
Okay,
Denise, should we,
go ahead.
it sounds like, what we're asking you to do is kind of challenge these thoughts, but it sounds like there's so many good reasons not to change. And, let's see though, if you could challenge them a little bit, because it sounds like there's that like a little iota left of wanting a bit of change. So, you can always stay the same. We're sitting with open hands. We don't want to push you for anything, but we want to give you a chance to fight back and resist a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to be another voice of your thought, and I'm going to say, Denise, there's really no reason to worry about your figure, your fitness. Like you said, you're in your early 60s. You're not dating. So, why would you want to change? There's no reason to.
Well, okay, it's not 100% accurate that I don't care about how I look. So, I still want to wear, clothing that I want to wear. I still want to have a relatively slender figure, and look as good as I can look for my age, for my husband and myself and my girlfriends, of course. And so that's why. And I
Oh,
want to be healthy. I'd like to live as long as my body is capable of living.
but Denise, you do have this really strong sense of being an adventurous individualist, and you love that sense of freedom of not having to worry about what you eat. If you diet, you're going to lose that sense of freedom. So why would you want to diet and lose that like remarkable sense of freedom, that core value that you have?
Well, okay, you told me to push you, so I think that the core value of being adventuresome and wanting to be free can exist in other realms besides food. And so I can have the experience of being free and adventuresome and not overeat by doing other things.
Oh, but you sound like you're kind of a social person and you like to go to restaurants with other people, and you're going to be ordering these really boring salads, and they're going to be ordering these really yummy things that you want to eat, and you're going to like resent them and just like salivating over what they want to eat. And how are you going to stop yourself when that stuff happens?
This is true. You are so right. That is going to happen. I think, well, I could allow myself a guilt-free menu experience. Maybe I could allow myself a guilt-free menu experience once a month,
Mm.
or just set it up so that I'm going to do that on a dedicated occasion, evaluating where I'm at with my weight. I guess I could do that.
Well, that's a great idea. We'll kind of do tag team here, but the way things are right now, life becomes a party, and you can celebrate every day, and that's the way the Dalai Lama would want us to be, to celebrate life, to have happiness all the time.
Yeah, that's true. I guess then, if I'm pushing, I could put on some music and dance instead of eat, and maybe change my TV habit.
Yeah, but come on now. We know that sucks in comparison with chomping on some nice salty popcorn and having some sweets. Let's get real now. We don't want to boringly dance alone to music. We want to let's get to the real stuff here.
Yeah, okay. I hear ya. And you know, I do enjoy dancing alone though, because nobody's watching. And
Okay, well, you got me on that one. I'll turn it back to Rhonda.
But Denise, as you're talking, you're talking about like every once in a while giving yourself a treat. So, but other than that once a month time, eating will become so boring, and then just something you're going to have to do. Only to sustain yourself. Like, why would you want to do that?
I don't want to. Okay.
Let me just come to a point here, and maybe you're telling us, and I'm willing to accept this, that this is not something that you want to do at this time, and I don't want to be in a position of trying to sell you on something. And if you want to keep eating as you're eating right now and exercising as you're exercising right now, that you have a lot of really good reasons to continue down that road.
No, I definitely want to make a change, especially since I have a vacation coming up in March, and I want to make sure my clothes fit properly for the trip.
I see. By the way, what just happened? Did anyone notice what just happened? Rhonda?
Well, you were taking away from, we weren't arguing with Denise that she needs to change. You said, Denise, it's okay not to change. It's okay. You're perfect just the way you are. You have so many good reasons to continuing eating the way you're eating and exercising the way you're eating. Just keep going with what you're doing. And then all of a sudden you start arguing with David. No, you do want to change. You're having this vacation in March. You want to make sure your clothes fit. Sounds like you found your motivation a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition, another dimension of it is we're here in front of 7,000 people or 8,000 people. So we want to show something kind of cool. But even if you're behind closed doors with a patient, you therapists have this addiction to helping. You feel somehow bad if you don't help someone, like you feel like you're failing. And that's why this is hard for therapists to learn, because it's hard to say, maybe this isn't something you want to do. And I get it and I understand that. And the sitting with open hands, that's why the Buddha sat with open hands. I often ask myself, what does that mean? Why is he sitting there with his hands open? And I think that means I can show you the road to enlightenment if that's what you want. But my ego doesn't depend on your following my path. Mm-hmm. And if you don't want what I'm offering, I can let go. But the most powerful tool I have in dealing with depression and dealing with anxiety and dealing with habits and addictions and dealing with relationship problems is to present the patient with all the reasons not to change, and then to say, hey, I've got fantastic tools to show you how to achieve that goal. But you'd have to convince me, and I'm not yet convinced that we should use those tools. And it's a scary step for therapists to take. Let's hit one or two more of these, and then we can take a look at the habit and addiction log too, because that's a fun one as well. What's one of these that you'd like us to hit you with, Denise? Something that's
one of what?
Well, the reasons to keep eating as you're eating and not to change your exercise.
Oh, okay. I think I think the reason that would be useful, the most useful, would be the loss of freedom that, or I like not to have to worry about what I'm eating because it's freeing and fun.
Go for it, Rhonda.
Denise, it's so freeing and fun to eat whatever you want, whenever you want. If you go on a diet, or if you change the way you eat, to change your eating habits, you're going to lose that sense of freedom. Why do you want to do that?
Well, now that I'm, looking ahead to my March vacation, to the wedding I'm going to in April with a family I haven't seen for a long time, that's why, because I have those things in mind. And it's just I have to suck it up and do it.
But Denise, eating makes you feel really good.
Yeah. So will feeling comfortable on my vacation.
Mm.
Who won that exchange, Denise?
I did.
Okay, great. Now we're going to show you another technique, but again, for those of you who are watching, whether you're a therapist or a non-therapist, this is why you, Denise, are overeating a bit, and if you ignore these things and try to sell Denise on some new diet that you have or some concept that you have of health or whatever, and you ignore this, in the first place, it's not empathic, because you're talking about yourself, your own values, trying to push something on someone. And in my experience, that's usually not effective. On occasion it's effective, but not very often. But it's also kind of an insult to the person that somehow you're going to help someone without opening up their mind and seeing what's in there, and putting them in a position to decide. Now, there's another thing here that is really fun, called the habit and addiction log, and this is page 4 of the Microsoft Word type handouts at the end of your handouts. It starts with all the PowerPoint slides, and then at the end you'll see this white portion. And here's something all of you in the audience can try on your own, but we'll demonstrate it with Denise. And you describe your habit or addiction at the top, like biting my nails or whatever it happens to be, or going home and at the end of a long day having a nice martini or whatever the thing is. And then you imagine that you're feeling really tempted to give in to your habit or addiction, visualize it, and then record the thoughts that tempt you. And then we'll show you how the devil's advocate technique works. And we asked Denise to fill this out before we started here. And maybe you can read to us what you've got on your habit or addiction log. It's actually called HAL. I'll put the correct name here. HAL, and then you can tell us what you've got.
Okay. For tempting thoughts, this is again the overeating habit or addiction. One tempting thought is that I exercised today, so that should be good enough to eat whatever I want.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. What else?
What I'm going to eat is healthy. It's organic. So
Yep.
that should be okay.
Yep.
Let's see. It's just a small portion, a small cookie. So what's the big deal? I won't even feel full from it.
Yep.
I've always been thin, so it should still be that way.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't matter. It just shouldn't. Um, I'm bored or I've had a hard day, so I deserve it.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's great.
Hmm. And I just want it.
What is the it, by the way, the popcorn?
Yeah, the popcorn, the cookies, and I have a partner in crime. My husband he makes the best popcorn in the world.
Oh, yeah.
So when he makes it and brings it to me, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
You don't want to reject your husband.
No, that's never good.
Awesome. Any other tempting thoughts?
Um,
This is a terrific list.
I can't come up with any more right now. Got any more suggestions I could borrow?
No, I think
No.
that's that's a beautiful list. And let me just adjust my settings here. Great. Now what we're going to do, Denise, is we're going to become that negative part of your brain, or that tempting part of your brain. And you're watching TV and you're feeling tempted, and we're going to try to tempt you. And when you do this, whether you're a therapist or a friend, you can write your negative thoughts and have your a family member or friend do this role play with you. The other person that Rhonda and I will play are going to be the tempting thoughts, and you try your hardest to tempt the person into giving in. Let's see what happens. And I'll start it off, and then Rhonda and I again will do tag team. And your job, Denise, is to see if you can defeat us, because these are some temptations you're going to run into actually today.
Yeah,
And can I talk to you for a minute, Denise?
sure.
You know, you already exercised today, so that should be good enough to eat whatever you want.
Well, there is a thing called calories, right? And I don't know that the exercise I did will really burn off whatever I want. So
Okay.
I really need to do that comparison.
Okay, who won that exchange?
I guess I did. I mean, I had a better answer, or I countered your comment.
Okay, great. So it's your turn, Rhonda.
Denise, you know what you're going to eat. It's just going to be so healthy and so organic. So it should be okay. Healthy and organic food. Anything healthy and organic should be okay to eat.
Yeah, a lot of things, Rhonda, have the word, healthy and organic on them, natural and organic. And many of those things have a lot of carbs and fat. And so that needs to be evaluated and considered.
So who won that exchange, Denise?
I did.
Yes.
Okay. But Denise, that's just a small cookie, small, really small. And so what's the big deal? You won't even feel full or bloated after you eat it.
Right. That again, there's a thing called calories, carbs, sugar, fat, and that all contributes to weight gain. And it doesn't really matter how small the cookie is. I mean, I suppose it matters, but it's being added to my body, and it's going to be additional calories, fat, sugar, even if it is organic, everything.
So who won that exchange?
I did.
Okay.
But Denise, you've always been thin, so it shouldn't matter.
I know. Damn it. But it does, apparently. The scale does not lie. And neither does the mirror.
And who won that exchange?
I did.
Okay, but there's one other thing that I wanted to mention to you, Denise, and you're not going to be able to defeat me this time. Are you ready?
Okay.
You're bored. You've had a hard day, and you want it. You really want it. Popcorn and cookies. and your husband just brought you some of the best popcorn in the world. So just reach out with your hand and put it to your lips. Your lips are trembling. Oh, and it's going to be crunch. It's going to taste so good in your mouth. Just go for it now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's pretty much what happens. I would say I am going to, the responsible thing to do here would be to say to my husband, "Hey, great job on the popcorn. I'll have 1 or 2 handfuls, and then I'm going to just bag it up and have a little more tomorrow. I'm going to put it in a plastic bag, and I'll have it as a snack tomorrow, another 1 or 2 handfuls." And I really appreciate the effort.
Okay, so who won?
Well, that one's hard. I mean, I guess I did, because,
Or maybe you didn't win, and maybe this isn't something that you'd want to do.
oh, it's definitely nothing I would want to do.
Well, then maybe it's not a good time to start fighting against all these impulses.
Well, it is a good time because I want to go on my trip at the end of the month and fit into my clothes better.
How strong is that a motivator for you? Because you look great, and people aren't going to care. They aren't going to notice.
Well, it's very strong because I don't have any other clothes to wear. And it's going to be hard to replace what I have in the time I have left. So I kind of have to do it.
So who won these exchanges?
I did.
Okay. Now, one tip, if you're doing this, say with a patient, and the patient falters, it's a huge mistake to do a role reversal. With a lot of the role playing techniques, I'm doing a workshop with Jill Levitt in a week from Sunday on the role play, on the uncovering techniques, and we'll be in cognitive therapy and team therapy, and we're going to be demonstrating some of the role playing techniques for therapists, that workshop. And when people are stuck, we often do a role reversal to show them a better way to crush a negative thought. But you never do role reversals when you're doing the devil's advocate technique. Your role is simply to tempt the person as powerfully as you can. And then if the person cannot talk back to that thought in a convincing way, when they're there with you, it's 100% certainty they won't be able to do it on their own. And what they're really saying is, I'm not yet committed, or I'm just not committed to changing. And the only effective intervention is to say, I get it totally. It looks to me like this isn't a step you want to take at this time. And that's great. I totally accept it. Is there anything else I can help you with? And it's only when you get to that genuine, willingness to let go and give the patient that freedom, rather than having a secret agenda to help them, that's when you usually see the sudden changes in your patient. But it's hard to learn as a therapist, because we've been trained to help, and we get kind of panicky when we think we're not being helpful. What has this experience been like for you, Denise? Was there anything that you didn't like, anything that turned you off?
Well, I wouldn't say anything turned me off. It was, I felt a little anxious when I was having to argue back and forth with you. But it didn't turn me off. It was just, I had to really think.
Yeah.
And dig in.
Was there anything that you did like about this experience? Is there anything positive for you?
Yeah, it gave me an opportunity to really take a good look at myself in this area. And because I think it covered everything going on with me about overeating. And it was a pretty exhaustive look at the present reality of my situation.
Well, why would that, taking a look at your motivations, why would that be of any value to you?
Well, given that I have this goal of going on a vacation at the beginning of April uh, and having a very specific outcome I want to achieve, that's the value right there.
Well, where do you stand right now?
On that, I do have I do have having taken a look at everything. I'm now kind of settled into wanting to take those actions, um, starting today. Really,
Um,
it could have dragged on another couple weeks had I not sat down and done this. Is what I'm saying.
how committed are you to changing starting today, starting now?
I would say very committed. Although I'm not going to eat um, garbage bars, diet bars. I don't have a specific plan, but it's not going to include that.
Sure. Well, we appreciate your hanging out with us and helping us bring some of this to life, Denise. You've really been great, and you've made a tremendous contribution to what we're trying to accomplish here today. I can't thank you enough.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Let
It's
me
absolutely a pleasure to have you along with us, Denise, and you've given us a really great example of how difficult it is to change a habit or an addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we'll just have a couple wrap-up slides here, and then we'll see what questions you might have. I mentioned I'd show you some slides on positive and negative distortions, and this was a patient I saw who wanted to lose weight, and at work there was a New Year's Eve party, and then there was an unopened box of chocolates that no one ate, so someone threw it in the trash. And then she got all anxious and tempted and excited, and she wrote down these tempting thoughts on her habit and addiction log. Wow, that chocolate looks so good. It would taste wonderful. I could just take one tiny little bite. One little piece couldn't hurt. I can skip dinner if I eat too much. And then she had a second wave of kind of angry, entitled thoughts. And she saw this box of candy just lying in the wastebasket. Said she has no business throwing good food away. It's unfair. Some people can eat all they want and not gain weight. I deserve one little piece. I've had a hard day. Life would be terrible if I couldn't have a little reward from time to time. And then she snuck the box out of the trash when no one was looking, put it in her desk, opened it, snuck her hand in, and ate one piece of chocolate, and then said, "I'm a fat pig. I just can't control myself. I shouldn't have given in. I deserve to be punished." And now we've got all the negative distortions coming in. I'll never lose weight. And then she ate the entire pound of chocolates. And so let's see what we've got. And so you've seen kind of the habit and addiction log, the devil's advocate technique, and now we're ready for some Q&A. But before we do that, I just want to say that if you'd like to learn more, Rhonda and I do free weekly Feeling Good podcasts teaching team therapy for a variety of targets, depression, anxiety, relationship problems, and so forth. The podcasts are for the general public and for therapists, and we'll hit our 5 millionth download in a few months. And if you're interested, just go to feelinggood.com and click on podcast. Also, Rhonda and I offer unlimited free weekly training for therapists from California and therapists from around the world. And you can find those resources. My Tuesday group at Stanford is virtual, and it's for therapists throughout California. And Rhonda's Wednesday group is for therapists from around the world. And you can find the contact information on the last page of your handouts, who to contact if you're looking for, if you're a therapist and you're looking for training. Also, on my website, there's a free anxiety class and a free depression class and a lot of other free resources if you're looking for help for your own or someone else's depression. This was my original book, Feeling Good, the New Mood Therapy, that's sold over 5 million copies. And the reason it sold so much is that 50 to 65% of the people, if you hand them a copy of this book and they're depressed, they'll improve dramatically or recover within 4 weeks with no other treatment. There have been 10 published outcome studies that have documented that. And then the new book that was published by Pesce, Feeling Great, has all the new techniques that I've developed since Feeling Good came out more than 40 years ago. And also I'm developing a Feeling Good app. And if you want to beta test it, you can sign up at feelinggood.com/app. We just completed a beta test with 140 people, about 80 of whom were extraordinarily severely depressed. And the group showed greater improvement in 1 day than any form of therapy or antidepressant medication has ever demonstrated, even after a treatment of many months. My dream was to create an app that could outperform human therapists in the treatment of depression and anxiety. And I think we've accomplished that much earlier than we thought. And we continually improve and modify the app, but I think it's already beyond anything a human therapist could compete with. And so if you're looking for help for depression, it might be worth time to sign up to beta test and see if this approach is helpful for you. It can also be combined with human therapy. It's just that our app can do things that a human therapist will never be able to compete with. And human therapists can probably bring a warmth and compassion that perhaps an app cannot provide. So either way, it could be helpful to you. And Rhonda and I really appreciate this opportunity to hang out with all of you folks. And we also want to thank Linda Jackson for generously making this opportunity available for all of us. It's not often that I get the chance to connect with so many people, and Rhonda and I are both tremendously grateful. And now we'll try a little Q&A and see what you folks have been thinking.
Yeah, a lot of people are asking about the work with Denise, and some people are asking about general questions. But one question that a lot of people have asked is, does the client or your patient feel you're giving up on them when you're using the devil advocate technique, or when you're telling your patient or your client you're not ready? Is there something else you want to work on? Does the patient or your client feel you're giving up on them?
Well, first place, I would never say you're not ready, because that implies I have an agenda for you and you're inadequate because you're not there yet. So that wouldn't be a phrase that I would use, but it's a great question. And I tell a patient, you see, when I sit with open hands, it was hard to do that with Denise because, we didn't have anyone else to work with. And ideally, we would have had several volunteers so that we could have then gone on to someone maybe who did want to change. But to me, it's very respectful. And the idea isn't that I'm giving up on you. The idea is that I've got tons of techniques to help you with your addiction, with your depression, with your anxiety, but you have to convince me that you want that help. And I'm going to become your subconscious mind and present you with all the many reasons not to change. And if you say, gee, I don't think I do want to change, then it's a matter of respect. And I just say, hey, if you ever change your mind, you've got my phone number and you'd always be welcome to return. But you're right. I never give up on a patient who wants help, and you never want to project something like negative to the patient. But this is a scary technique to use. And I did feel a little inhibited in going full blow on it, for a full bore on it today for that reason.
So 38 people have asked this question, so I want to ask you it what interventions would you suggest when clients who have good insight into their cognitive distortions, but that isn't enough? Such as if you have a client who's able to identify the distortion and understand that it's not true, and they're able to positively reframe it, but they continuously exhibit severe symptoms of depression or alcoholism or the habit or the addiction they're working on.
Well, I'll focus on depression because each target will be handled in a radically different way. But let's say a person has the thought, I'm a worthless human being, and they can identify 6 or 8 distortions in that thought, like self-blame and all or nothing thinking and emotional reasoning and a hidden should statement and mental filtering and discounting the positive and overgeneralization. But they still believe that negative thought, I'm a worthless human being. And there's what we call the necessary and sufficient conditions for change. And the necessary condition is that they come up with a positive thought that they believe 100% to challenge that thought, I'm worthless or I'm inferior. And if the positive thought isn't 100% valid, it won't help. Rationalizations won't help. Positive affirmations won't help. Defensiveness won't help. You've got to come up with a positive thought that's 100% correct. In addition, the positive thought has to radically lower the patient's belief in the negative thought, I'm worthless or I'm inferior. The very moment the patient stops believing that thought, in that very instant, they'll change and often recover completely. Now, you might have to try 5 or 10 or 15 techniques. I've developed over 100 techniques to help people crush the distorted thoughts that cause depression and anxiety and other problems. And you may have to try quite a number of techniques until you find the one that's effective. And different techniques work for different people. It's not just the insight that you have distortions, but suddenly seeing that what you're telling yourself isn't true. However, by far the commonest reason for therapeutic failure for over 90% is that you haven't yet revealed to the patient why they're really committed to that negative thought, why it really is a great thing for them. And I can give you a quick example of that. And you can see a lot of examples if you listen to the Feeling Good podcast, because we do a lot of live therapy there. So you can see people struggling with these exact thoughts. But we had a colleague who kindly allowed us to publish his actual therapy session on a podcast, Sunny Choi. Sunny's just a wonderful guy and a beloved member of our Tuesday group. And he was struggling with anxiety, and he's one of the world's top experts in the treatment of anxiety. And he had become suddenly flooded with anxiety, and he was telling himself, I shouldn't be anxious because I'm an expert. I treat people with anxiety all the time, and I've been anxious in the past and I overcame it, so I shouldn't be anxious again. And he really believed that thought, I shouldn't be anxious again. And the goal of positive reframing is to see why your negative thoughts are actually the expression of something positive about you, not something negative. But he couldn't see it, and he was clinging to that thought. And then I pointed out, well, Sonny, you said the first time you got anxious was when you were growing up and you realized you were gay. And you grew up in Hong Kong, which is pretty repressive, and you revealed to your parents and to others that you were gay. And before that, you were very anxious. And then you got tremendous relief after that. And you felt proud of yourself. And then the second time that you became extremely anxious was when you had a high-tech career in Silicon Valley. You're making a lot of money because your mom said, you have a problem with your speech, so you can't work with people, you have to become an engineer, and you did that. But you always yearned to work with people. And so the day you made the decision to leave Silicon Valley and to get a master's degree in social work and started coming to my Tuesday training group so you could learn how to become a great therapist, you also felt a flood of anxiety, fearing, people would criticize you for leaving a sure thing. And then you fell in love with your new career and became a true great person here in Silicon Valley, one of the great therapists doing fantastic work. And now you've decided to retire half-time and to just do what you want to do with your life, and you got anxious again. Well, did it ever occur to you that that's because, once again, you're breaking the mold? Instead of going for everyone's approval, you're doing what you want to do with your life. And maybe instead of telling yourself you shouldn't feel anxious, you could tell yourself, I should feel anxious because I'm taking a big risk again. And I deserve a lot of credit for it. And I'm just going to be as anxious as I need to be, because this is a transforming moment in my life once again. And when I said that, it's like a light bulb went on, and suddenly his anxiety disappeared. And you can hear that live. But it takes a lot of therapeutic skill to help somebody come to see that depression and anxiety are really the expression of something positive and beautiful about you. And it can't be done in a formulaic way. You've got to really see something and have an aha moment. But that's the most powerful reason, and that's the most powerful tool in our toolbox of all the 120 or 30 techniques I've developed. The elimination of resistance is by far the most powerful tool. Great question. And you can add to any of my answers, Rhonda, too.
Okay. That was a beautiful response. I don't have anything to add.
Thanks.
Someone asked, I love how much the triple paradox seemed to help with what Denise highlighted, just understanding herself and ourselves. Do you find that sometimes working through the triple paradox is enough for people to break a strong habit or addiction?
Yes, usually, but not always. And I never say that you should just have one technique, because it's different strokes for different folks, and the energy of every patient is different. So things will lead in radically different directions. And for me, therapy is both following a sequence, but also tremendously spontaneous. But yes, I can remember the moment I created the triple paradox. I was on one of my Sunday hikes, and one of the therapists probably had 10 people hiking, and this woman asked for help, as people would do. They'd come up, take turns, and I'd help them with personal issues. I just hope we can get rid of COVID and I can get back in physical condition to start doing it again, because those were some of the happiest moments of my life, to be honest. But she said that she'd gained a lot of weight, and could I help her lose weight? And it just kind of came to me spontaneously. I said, well, I could. I've got tons of techniques to help with that. But first, I want to be convinced, do you want to lose weight? She said, oh, absolutely. I said, okay, so if we press this magic button, if you press it, you'll just start losing weight and dieting and exercising like crazy. Would you press this button? She said, oh, in a heartbeat, I'd press it. I'd say, well, I'm not so convinced. Let's list all the good reasons to overeat and not exercise, just like what we did today with Denise. And we hiked for about another 3 minutes. She came up with 8 or 10 or 12 good reasons to overeat, similar to Denise's list. And then I just said on impulse, and what are some of the really downsides of diet and exercise? And she said, oh, I hate exercising. I said, oh, yeah, I do too, except the Sunday hikes are fun, but just getting out exercising for exercising's sake, that's horrible. I don't like it either. And tell me more. Well, she said, I love to eat this and I love to eat this, and came up, with all the advantages of overeating and the downsides of dieting and exercise. And we had a killer list. And then I said, what does not dieting and exercise show about you and your core values as a human being that's just positive and awesome? And she said, oh, it shows I'm an independent thinker, and I feel I can love myself with my body the way it is, and why should I have to conform to all these societal standards, and shows this and that, and came up with about 10 awesome things about her. And I said, well, gosh, we've just come up with about 30 really good reasons for you, not to diet and exercise, and just to continue with the status quo. And so I don't feel like that you need to do anything at all to change. I can't see why you'd want to change. And she says, I want to tell you something. I've just decided to diet and lose weight. Absolutely. She says, I am 200% committed to it. And I didn't do anything to help her. I just gave her all the reasons not to do it. And I said, well, do you need any more help from me? She said, oh, no, I don't need any help at all. I know exactly what to do. And that's right. Once you've got the commitment, there's plenty of ways to diet and exercise and lose weight. There are hundreds of different ways, and whatever way you choose, if you're highly committed to it, it's going to work for you. But yet, most of the people I do the triple paradox with, they suddenly decide they're going to change, and they also usually tell me, I don't need anything more. I know all about what I have to do.
David, will these techniques work for people who have strong physical addictions like alcohol or nicotine, or certain drugs like opioids, where the habit or addiction is not just a mental process like overeating, but also a physical dependence?
Well, they might play a role, but again, there's limitations to everything, and so you have to have a lot of different approaches. Now, I have a dear colleague, Stephen Fleiterer, from San Francisco, who does interventions. He was for years a member of our Tuesday group, and he's a tremendous person, a tremendous therapist, and he works with people who are about to die from like heroin injections, people who are living on the street, living in the gutters, really on the verge of death. And he does interventions with these individuals and their families. And sometimes you have to use, forceful techniques to save somebody's life. And even there, I'm sure his success rate is undoubtedly not 100%. It's a very grim population. And so this isn't a solution for everybody, especially when you get into very severe things. And in addition, I've sometimes worked with patients, say with a real severe alcohol problem, as outpatients, and told them, I can give you things that AA can't possibly give you, but AA or some similar weekly, self-help group for addictions can give you things I cannot possibly give you. And so I would be willing to work with you as an outpatient if you agree to join AA or one of these groups and get a sponsor and get additional forms of help. And then 1 + 1 = 3 with their help and with my help, we can move mountains. But I'm not opposed to any addiction treatments. It's just that the focus on motivational techniques, I think, can make any addiction, and empathy as well, can make any addiction treatment program vastly more effective. And I'm trying to bring in the missing dimension from current addiction type treatments.
Okay, well, we have only a few more minutes, so I'm going to just ask a real quick question. Would you use these techniques with new clients? Because people are worried that if you're really transparent about this, you might lose credibility with them and they might leave. And people are also asking, how can you trust that your patient is actually going to be honest with you about these things?
Well, those are all great questions, and they have to do with psychotherapy training. These aren't gimmicks that you can impose on people in some narcissistic way to impress people with how clever you are. We always embed them in the sequence of TEAM, which starts with testing test patients at the start and end of every session in multiple dimensions, including how tempted have you been this week to give into your addiction, if that's what you're working on. Also, the 5 secrets of effective communication. How do you develop a trusting relationship with your clients? And they rate us at the end of every therapy session with very sensitive scales on empathy and trust. We also asked Denise, what grade are we getting on empathy? And she gave us an A. If she'd given us an A- or a B+, we would have said, what are we missing? Tell me the part where we're turning you off a little bit. All of those dimensions are incredibly important. And learning these tools takes tremendous training. And I would say this is not for all therapists. I think what we're teaching is too difficult for many therapists, and you may be better off just sticking with your current approach. But that's why I offer unlimited free training. If you want help, if you want to change the way you work, you can come to my Tuesday group at Stanford or to Rhonda's Wednesday group or both. And, we give the Tuesday group is 2 hours of free therapy, free treatment or training every week, as well as we give unlimited free therapy to the people in our group too. We do live work with the people in the group. It's a wonderful training thing, and we publish those live sessions on podcasts. And so we're willing to help you and work with you to develop the skills to become a better therapist, and maybe even to become a great therapist or a master therapist. If you want to learn, we have a lot to give, and a lot to give for free. You can also go to the Feeling Good Institute in Mountain View, and they have a lot of paid trainings there that are fantastic. They have a licensure program in team therapy, and I'm giving a workshop on, I think, February 6th. Is that it? Do you recall?
February 6th, definitely.
Yeah, on the deeper dimension in cognitive therapy, how to get to the deep factors that cause depression and anxiety and relationship problems. And I'm going to do that one with Jill Levitt, and we love teaching together, and you get CE credits too for that one if you're a therapist. But yes, all these are great questions that you ask, and the answers, it requires a lot of skill, a lot of training, consultation with colleagues to learn how to deal with those issues.
If anyone is interested in joining either the Tuesday or the Wednesday group, please look at the handouts, because it's mentioned there who you would contact in order to join. And
that's the last page, the very last page of the handouts with additional resources. Is that correct, Rhonda?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So you can find out who to contact if you'd like to join us. And look in your handout, if you're a general citizen or even a therapist, you want to try the Feeling Good app, it is free, and it is outperforming human therapists already. We're not saying it's not a substitute for therapy, it's a self-help tool. But if you or a loved one are struggling with depression or anxiety, that's the current focus of the app. They might get a big boost from the Feeling Good app, and we'll have a beta test coming up in a few weeks. We're excited about the latest revision of it, and we think it has. We think the Feeling Good app is going to transform the history of psychiatry and psychology. I think the idea that an app can now outperform a human therapist is a fantastic game changer, and will make treatment available for people all around the world who right now can't afford it. So thank you, Linda, and thank you all for coming. Any last wise words, Rhonda?
Just thank you so much, everyone, for coming, and thank you to Denise for participating and showing how hard it is to change, and giving us the opportunity to role play what we would do when somebody was struggling with changing.
So thank you, and goodbye, and blessings on all of you, and we hope to have the chance to work with you again. It's very special for both Rhonda and David.
Extremely.